welcome to the Prism Path Knit Swoncho. We have reached the time that we are going to separate our yoke into the body and the sleeves. By this point, you have completed all of the yoke of your Swoncho and you have switched back to your size 8 needles if that's the size needle that you needed to maintain gauge between the one color stockinette and the stranded color stockinette. And you've also knit 8 rounds with your color A. From here on out, you will be only using your color A. So all of your other yarn that you have remaining, you can put those together in a bag and set those aside, and we can use those to make a hat or a cowl or mittens or gloves or whatever you want later on. So there are options for what we can do with that yarn. But for now, set it aside and just get your color A. Once you have your homework complete and you're ready to move forward with separating the body and the sleeves, get some stitch markers, get some scrap yarn, and let's go ahead and dive in and get this party started. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here is my Swoncho worked up all the way through round 7. I have switched over to my circular needles in the smaller size, and I have knit 8 rounds, and I'm ready to separate for the body and the sleeves. Now, the written instructions have us separate for the sleeves as we're knitting around. But for me, I like to make sure I have markers in place to help me sort of double check that I am in the correct place where I am putting stitches on a holder and I'm casting on stitches to make up the body of my work. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to grab some stitch markers and I'm going to count out the number of stitches that I need to work across, and then I'm going to put a marker there. And then I'm going to count the number of stitches that I'm going to place on a holder, and I'm going to put a marker there. Okay. And that's just going to help me identify where I am when it's time to get working here. Okay. So I have 2 stitches past my marker here. So I have 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 40, 42, 44, 46, 48. I can't remember how many stitches I'm supposed to have. 72, 48, 50, 52, 54, 56, 58, 60, 62, 64, 66, 68, 70, 72. All right, so that's 72. I'm going to put my marker there. Hopefully this makes sense to what I'm doing here. So that's 72. And now, remember, I'm making the second to largest size. So now I'm going to place 48 stitches on a holder. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 40, 42, 44, 46, 48. So those 48 stitches will end up going on a holder, and those will become my sleeve. Okay, those 48 stitches, and then whatever I pick up from what I'm going to cast on. Okay, so now what essentially we have to do now is we are going to count the number of stitches that we would work across until we get over here to this side. And if you don't know, like for me, it's going to be 144. Then I'm going to place a marker, count 48, place a marker, and then I should be left right here with 72 stitches. All right, so I'm going to keep going and place those markers. You do the same thing, and then meet me back here and we'll get started knitting. Okay, so I have all of my stitch markers in place. So you can see here, my markers right here will make up one sleeve. My markers over here make up another sleeve. Then I have the front and the back. Now, it's at this point I now will continue on with the instructions that start with the next round, okay? And what I will do is I will be able to double check my count up to my marker. So this is really a great way to double check yourself, okay? So let's remove my point protectors here. And remember, I already had 2 stitches started here, and I am going to go ahead and just knit around. Okay, so I have exactly 72 stitches, which is exactly what I wanted, right? There's my marker. And so I can go ahead and I can remove this marker, and we want to place all of these stitches on a holder. So I am not a big fan of those plastic holders that look like a safety pin, or the metal holders that look like a safety pin. I much prefer to just use yarn. It just works out great for me, and I have a lot of it around. So we're going to grab some yarn and thread it through those 48 stitches and put them on hold for the sleeve. Okay, you don't have to overthink this too much. Grab some yarn that is made of a fiber that will not interfere with the fiber you are using with your project. And then we're going to thread that onto a tapestry needle, and then we are going to go into each one of these stitches from the left-hand needle as if to purl and slip them off. And because I've already marked out all of the 48 stitches I'm putting on a holder, I don't have to sit here and count unless I want to double check myself. But all I'll do is I keep putting them onto my tapestry needle, and then I'll pull that yarn through. Okay. And I'll just keep doing this. Once you get all of these on the scrap yarn, I can go ahead and remove my marker that was marking off my 48. What I do, so I'm going to remove my tapestry needle. I am going to cut my scrap yarn. I leave it nice and long. Okay, I leave it nice and long, and then I tie a knot in the scrap yarn. Okay, so what that does is I have a nice long section here that if I go to try this on later, I'm not going to have this interfere with anything of me trying it on. And by tying it into a knot, I make sure that should I grab any bit of this, it's not going to pull out all of my stitches. Okay, and one of the reasons I really like to use scrap yarn to put stitches on holder when it comes to sleeves and such is because when I go back and put those stitches back on a needle, I can leave that scrap yarn in place and it will act as a lifeline for myself. So I don't have to run the risk of accidentally messing up and then ruining everything beyond that point. I can leave that yarn in place. It's a lifeline, and I have a safety net in case something should mess up later on, considering everything is perfect up to this point, right? Okay, so now all I need to do is cast on stitches. Okay, so the number of stitches you cast on is dependent on the size you are making. So for me, I need 18 stitches. So you could do a modified cable cast on, you could do a backwards E or a modified backwards E, which is what I'm going to have you do. So if you grab your yarn, take your thumb and scoop around. I want you to take your needle here. I want you to scoop up that yarn up your thumb, and then I want you to give it another twist and put it on your needle. Okay, it's just going to give us a little bit more secure of a cast on. Okay, so I'm doing a backwards E, and then I'm twisting it again and putting it on. And for me, I'm going to do this 18 times. And 18. Okay, now I have 18 stitches cast on. And what will happen, these will make up my armpit area when it's time. Okay, so some of these stitches we will pick up and we will add to the sleeve, and then the others we will work them and they will be part of the body. So now I'm going to continue working in the round. So I bring my work back up here. Okay, so this is where we left off after we put stitches on a holder, and we continue knitting. So now I can double check my count, right? For me, I should have 144 stitches over to my next marker. So I can just keep on knitting here and make sure I have the correct stitch count. Once you get to the other sleeve, you're going to do the exact same thing. Put those sleeve stitches on a holder, cast on the number of stitches you need for your armpit area, and then join again to work in the round. You'll complete the round so that you're back at the beginning, and then you're ready to move on to the body, which is very easy because you're just going to work in stockinette stitch with one color until the piece measures the distance written in the pattern. It's that simple. Now, Given that it's that simple, it's going to be that tedious to get through just this basic stockinette. You're going to think to yourself, I got through this entire Swoncho. It worked really fast. I did, some extreme color work. And this part is the part that's the hardest to get through. And it's because it is so easy that you just get a little bit bored with it. But hang in there, be consistent with your gauge. Make sure that your stockinette gauge with one color matches your stockinette gauge with the stranded color work, and work until the piece measures the distance written in the pattern. And when I say that, it's the body, the stockinette portion. So measure it from the armpit where you cast on, measure it from there. And then you're going to do ribbing, which is just knit one, purl one ribbing. And then you're going to bind off in pattern. So you'll bind off as if it's a knit one, if it's a purl one, and you bind off, and your body portion will be done. Then we'll be able to move on to the sleeve. So right now, let's go ahead and continue on with the body. I will see you in the next video where we will get the stitches all back on our needles, and we will be almost done with our entire Swoncho. I cannot wait to see your project. As you're working along, if you try it on, make sure you snap a picture and share with me. I would love to see what it looks like, okay? This is just very exciting to see all of it come together. All right, that's it for me, everybody. I'm Marley Bird, your By Crafty bestie. I'll see you soon.